everybody, Scott Lenard back here. I'm here with my dad today. He's back for 2 straight weeks. That hasn't happened in a while.
Crazy.
We are here to do my Kentucky and Pittsburgh Steelers predictions from my buddy Terry Jewell, who we'll be seeing tomorrow at softball practice. Let's get into those right now. First game out, Kentucky against Southern Miss. I like Kentucky in this game. I don't see any problems here. Kentucky should win this game pretty easily.
Yeah, Southern Miss has upset some good teams over the years, but I agree. I think Kentucky has got the program heading in the right direction. I like Kentucky to go 1-0.
Next up, at home against South Carolina. I'll take Kentucky at home to get it done against South Carolina.
Yeah, if this game was on the road, I would pick South Carolina, but with Kentucky being at home, I agree. Kentucky goes 2-0.
Next up, at home against Georgia. It doesn't really matter what this game is. Georgia gets the win here on the road over Kentucky.
As much as I'd like to pick Kentucky here, so I'm not a Georgia fan. Unfortunately, I agree with Scott. I think Georgia's going to get the win here.
Next up, at home against Ohio. This is another win for you guys. Your non-conference schedule looks a little weak this year, but that's okay because you guys are in the SEC, so that won't hurt you come later in the season. So I'll take Kentucky to get the win over Ohio.
Just Ohio or Ohio State?
Ohio.
Oh, that makes it different. All right, definitely Kentucky gets the win against a MAC school, which is not a great conference. Kentucky gets the win going 3-1.
Next up, on the road at Ole Miss. A lot of people are very high on Ole Miss coming into the season, so I'll take Ole Miss at home over Kentucky.
Yeah, Lane Kiffin's got that program going in the right direction. I think Ole Miss gets the win here.
Next up, at home against Vanderbilt. I will take Kentucky at home over Vandy.
Yeah, one sure win typically in the SEC is against Vandy, so I will take Kentucky at home against Vandy as well. 4-2.
Next up, on the road in the swamp against Florida. I'm going to take Florida in this game. I think Billy Napier, at this point in the season, is playing for his job. I think one more loss for Billy Napier at this point in the season. I think he knows that he's getting the pink slip, so I'll take Florida at home over Kentucky.
As much as it pains me, Florida owned Kentucky for many years. Of late, Kentucky's on Florida. I'm going to pick Kentucky on the road against Florida.
Next up, at home against Auburn. I will take Kentucky at home over Auburn.
This one's going to be a close one, but I also like Kentucky against Auburn. For Kentucky, goes 6-2.
I'm at 5-3, so that's okay. Next up, on the road at Tennessee. Josh Heupel's got a much better offense than he did last year, so I'll take Tennessee at home over Kentucky.
I think this will be a close game, but I agree with Scott. I think Tennessee's going to have too much offense here, so Kentucky gets the loss going 6-3.
Next up, at home against Murray State, I will take Kentucky to get another win and become bowl eligible for another season. So I'll take Kentucky at home over Murray State.
I didn't know Murray State had a football team.
I didn't either.
I know they have a pretty good basketball program,
Yeah.
but I'm also going to take Kentucky in this game.
Next up, on the road in Austin, Texas. This is a loss. I think it's going to be very hot down there in Austin in November. And Texas is probably playing for a spot in the SEC championship game. So I'll take Texas at home over Kentucky.
I agree. Texas is one of the 3 or 4 top programs in the nation right now, and they're playing at home. I think Texas gets the win.
Next up, at home against Louisville to finish off the season. I will take Kentucky at home. I think you guys beat them last year at Louisville. I think you guys will beat them at home this year. So I'll take Kentucky at home over Louisville to finish 7-5 on the season.
And I agree with Scott. I think Kentucky's going to beat Louisville at home to go 8-4. Very respectable record and good season for the Wildcats.
Now into the Pittsburgh Steelers predictions. First game out on the road at Atlanta. I will take the Steelers on the road to get it done against the Falcons.
I think Pittsburgh has a lucky draw here. I think it's going to take Atlanta a little while to get their offense cranked up. So I'm also going to take the Steelers on the road, going 1-0.
Next up, on the road at Denver. Give me the Steelers on the road. I think the Broncos are not going to be as good as people think this year, so I'll take Pittsburgh at home on the road over Denver.
This is the Russell Wilson revenge game, potentially. So I also agree. Pittsburgh gets the win 2-0.
Next up, out on the road at home, first home game of the season against the Chargers. I will take the Chargers on the road, though. I think Justin Herbert's going to do very well in the Jim Harbaugh offense. So I will take the Chargers on the road over the Steelers.
If Pittsburgh was playing this game in San Diego, in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I would take the Chargers, but since the Steelers are at home, give me the Steelers to go 3-0.
Next up on the road at Indianapolis, I will take the Steelers. I think I like what AR-15 showed me last year. I just don't think that he's going to do well against a very good Steeler defense this week. So I'll take the Steelers on the road against the Colts.
Colts are one of those teams that upset good teams at home, and I think this is one of those weeks. I think the Colts will upset the Steelers in week 4.
Next up at home against Dallas, the Stephen A. Smith Bowl. I will take the Pittsburgh Steelers at home here. I think the Cowboys are going to take a little bit of a step back this year. They don't know who they want to pay right now in the offseason. They have 3 players who are wanting a lot of money. So I will take the Steelers at home over the Cowboys.
It should be a close game, obviously a rivalry game. Since Pittsburgh's at home, I'm going to take Pittsburgh in this one.
Next up on the road in Vegas, I will take the Steelers to get the win here. I think the Raiders are maybe a year away from being a decent team. I think they'll be one of these teams looking for a quarterback in next year's draft. So I will take the Steelers on the road over the Raiders.
I agree. I think the Raiders will be one of the more underperforming teams this year. So Pittsburgh gets a win, and Scott and I have them both going 5-1 at this point.
Yep. Next up at home against the New York Jets. That is a loss for me. I think Aaron Rodgers is on a revenge tour this year after getting injured on the first game of the season last year. So I will take the Jets on the road over the Steelers.
I think the Jets may be the most overrated team in the league this year. I think they are dysfunctional with Rodgers and all of his outside interests and crazy theories on things. I think the Steelers get the win.
Next up at home against the Giants. I think you split with the 2 New York teams this year. I'll take the Steelers at home on Monday Night Football to get it done against Danny Dimes and the Giants.
I agree. I don't think the Giants are going to be that good of a team, average at best, giving the Steelers in this one.
Next up, taking on the Washington Commanders on the road. Kind of a scary game with how good James Daniels has looked in camp. A lot of people are saying that he could be the best quarterback in this draft. But I will take the Steelers on the road to get it done against the Commanders.
I think the Commanders are going to pull an upset this week with the Commanders having 7 weeks under the belt with Daniels at quarterback. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers will lose this game and be 7-2.
Next up at home against the Baltimore Ravens. No scenario you guys ain't winning this game. Lamar Jackson, I think, knows that his time for winning a Super Bowl is running out a little bit. He's getting a little bit up there in age, so I'll take Baltimore on the road over the Steelers.
If this was in Baltimore, I would take Baltimore, but at home, I'm going to take the Steelers.
Next up on the road at Cleveland. If Deshaun Watson could stay healthy this year, I think the Browns could be a contender to make the playoffs this year. I will take the Steelers to find a way to get a win on the road in Cleveland against the Browns.
I think this will be an ugly game, defensive battle, but Cleveland will have one of the best defenses in the league, so I think Cleveland will get the win this week.
Next up on the road at Cincinnati, I'm going to go with Joe Burrow and the Bengals to get the win here at home. I think the blonde hair, I don't think he's going to really hurt Joe Burrow this year, so I'll take the Bengals at home over the Steelers.
I'm glad you're not being street pick on someone's hair. That's good. I agree. I think the Steelers are going to lose to Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati will have a big bounce back here with Burrow being more healthy, and I like the Bengals in this game.
Next up at home against the Browns, I will take the Steelers at home. I think the Browns are, again, going to be a potential playoff team this year, but I think the Steelers are a little bit better this year. So I'll take the Steelers at home over the Browns.
Yeah, I think the Browns and Steelers are going to split the series this year. I think the Steelers will get the win, going 9-4.
Next up on the road at Philly, I will take the Steelers. I think the Eagles have taken a little bit of a step back. Their defense should be improved this year, but that's not saying much after what I saw in the wild card game last year. I will take the Steelers on the road against the Eagles.
You know, what Eagles team shows up? The one at the end of last season that seemed to quit on the season. I'm going to guess the Eagles are not going to be able to right the ship, and I'm going to take the Steelers on the road.
And this is late in the season, so there you go.
Yeah.
Next up on the road at Baltimore, I think that's also a loss. I think the Ravens are probably one of the best teams in the AFC this year, so I'll take the Ravens at home over the Steelers.
I agree. Ravens at home are really tough to beat. I think Pittsburgh and Baltimore will split the season series, and I will take Pittsburgh to 9-5.
Next up at home against Kansas City, I think that's a loss. I think Patrick Mahomes is just too good right now. no matter who he has at receiver, he's always finding ways to win games. So I'll take Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs to get it done on the road against the Steelers.
Be honest with you, I'm kind of tired of the Chiefs, but at the end of the day, you have to give them their props. I think the Chiefs are going to win, bringing the Steelers to 9-6.
I may not be able to watch this game because it's on Christmas.
Oh,
But
there you go.
if Brandon Winnie has Netflix, I'll be able to watch it. But I don't know if she does. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Next up, at home to finish off the season against Cincinnati. I will take the Steelers to win this game, finish 11-6, and potentially make the playoffs. So I'll take the Steelers at home over the Bengals.
I agree with Scott, and I've got the Steelers also going 11-6. I think they'll win this last game, and a pretty darn good season for the Steelers.
Yep. And that'll do it for this episode of Scott's Wing Sports today, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back next week with 2 more teams. I don't know which 2 yet. I gotta start thinking about that. And I'll see you guys right back here next Friday on Scott's Wing Sports. See you later, guys.
See you guys.